What if this is the top? What if the bull market we've all been waiting for already ended without even really starting? What if everything that we thought we knew about this cycle was wrong? What if... All right, okay, enough with the drama, but these are questions that I do want to explore in this video, and I want to just start by saying it's not because I think these things at all. If you all watch my videos, you know I do not think the bull market has even started yet, and we'll talk more about that too in this video, but I'm actually going to look at, in this scenario, because people are talking about it, so many people are talking about this, in this scenario, the bulls just completely fail. Liquidity just fails to enter, and we just keep going lower and lower. What does Ethereum look like? What does Cardano look like in that environment? I'm going to talk about that. I have actual areas with even probabilities that I just wanted to put out there. And this is in the case where we don't get a bull market. We don't get even short to midterm support with where we are right now in the crypto cycle. So hit the subscribe and like on the way in. If you're not in our intelligence system with our risk models, get back there right now. We have the link below, free trial going on. Get access to our risk models. Plan, strategize. If you're a macro investor, make unemotional decisions based on data. What's funny about the intro of this video is I covered this post yesterday, the CEO of Bitwise. He was saying, what if? But he was saying, what if we've actually been in the bear market for much of this year? Not what if the bear market's about to start. And really, if you look at something like our Bitcoin risk model, I think there's more of a probability that we've been through this season of quantitative tightening in, as we're putting higher highs and higher lows, by the way, more of a bear market, right, than a bull market. And that is especially true on the altcoin charts. So I'm going to look at the charts next, but I want to just go over two things with you. The basis of my approach right now, and this is just me, is this. If you must be bearish, I respect it. I just don't have the appetite to take that risk. I'd rather be wrong and round trip into a bear market and accumulate more than to not have proper exposure for a continued bull market. I posted that yesterday. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about this if that happened. So I saw this post by On-Chain College. I don't necessarily know what his actual view is, but he's painting a picture in terms of continued downtrend. If that was the bull market top, it would be the most muted cycle in Bitcoin's history. And again, look at the risk model for Bitcoin. It's about to fall back into the 30s. Going back to this post though, in that case, the next bear likely won't be as aggressive. With a blow off top and diminishing volatility each cycle, I'd expect a 55 to 70% drawdown in the next bear. Without a blow off top, similar to the top we just had, I'd expect closer to 30 to 55%, depending on how holders behave. So guess what? First off, we haven't had a blow off top. That's just how it is. But without a blow off top, he's saying 30 to 55%. That would put the next bear market low between high 50s and high 80s, depending on what happens here, right? But let's go with the scenario that, you know what, man, just the bulls, and let's go open up a chart now to start discussing this. So many things to talk about fundamentally. I just want to point one thing out to you before we talk about what we're going to talk about on the Ethereum and Cardano charts. Please remember this. And this plays into the bull probabilities right now. Quantitative tightening ending in September last cycle. There was still some volatility and downside. Keep that in mind. But we did not enter a bear market, and we continued into a new kind of liquidity cycle. Now, this is where we are right now. Years of quantitative tightening coming to an end. So we're going from liquidity contraction to expansion. This is what happened right here. This was that phase. Liquidity contraction to expansion. We're going into a similar thing. That's a very key point for my bull thesis. So that's that. Now let's say it fails. Let's say that entire thing fails. I have Ethereum chart and Cardano chart. I just want to go over with you. And again, I want to make another note. This isn't because I think this is what is going to happen, but I really wanted to do this because I know everybody is kind of like, man, what's going on? Like, are we going to fall? And here are my price targets. And I wanted to actually say this. what I'm about to talk about, you know, it's always in the back of my mind. I talk about pretty often. My dad, when I was younger, he taught me this thing and he called it extreme contrast analysis. So when you're trying to make decisions, you're literally looking at the one end of the spectrum and the other end of the spectrum, and then you're putting yourself in the present and you're saying, okay, let me make my decision in this world where both are possible so that I'm comfortable with my decision. So when I'm making my crypto decisions, I'm always on the extreme bullish end, but I'm also on the extreme bearish end. And that is why I'm always like, it could all go to zero. It could all go to zero. That falls right in line with extreme contrast analysis in making decisions. So for me, when I'm making my decisions in crypto, long-term, even short-term, whatever decisions, I'm always trying to keep in mind, well, am I okay with this decision if it all goes to zero? Am I comfortable? That is huge in making decisions, not even just with crypto, but with so many things. So just keep that in mind. Like that's always on my mind. And right now we can lump this into extreme contrast analysis. So here's Ethereum. I have, a few things to a few targets, I guess we can talk about. So QT ending December 1st, we might get more drawdown, right? And this is a scenario where like the continued shakeout and we don't get a support at the structured move, right, at the apex, and we're going down further and we get continued shakeout in the markets right now. And we're going to kind of like a higher low range. I'm sorry. And what that means is from this swing low back here, right? And even this swing low. It's like we're just trying to find the higher low structure. That would be the continued shakeout for the continued move that we're in right now already, if we don't get support here. That's a possibility anyway, right? But that would be like a $2,800 to $2,200 range that we have here. And just remember, the probabilities, the percentages aren't like me saying, hey, from where we sit right now, this is a 60% chance that it's going to happen. This is just me saying, if we lose support here, what are the chances of each range? That's kind of what I'm trying to say here. So if we lose complete support, I would say 60% probable that we get to the $2,800 to $2,200 range, the continued shakeout. And I think this is very much in line with kind of what was happening back here, right? QT was ending in September, but it's like we kept falling and then we got a bounce. And then unfortunately, we know what happened right there. But if this kind of played out, right? QT's ending in December, but we're still falling. And I'm not so sure. Again, this isn't my base case, right? This is if support fails. Rest of November, rest of December, we'll just keep falling. 60% probable. Now, if we get like an even steeper structural bottom, if the liquidity, right, that we're waiting on, liquidity contraction to expansion, if it just is completely delayed, even more than it's been delayed, well, then we're at a 30% probability, I'd say, of $2,200 to $1,500. And so think about that. I mean, we're at 3,400. In extreme contrast analysis, we could say 0 is a possibility. Right now we're saying, okay, well, if we lose the short to midterm support in this dip at the apex, 30% probability that we're at $2,200 to $1,500. How are you feeling about that? What are your thoughts about that? Are you still bullish on the crypto space? Is it game over if even that happened for crypto? Will there be no more buyers? With Clarity Act passing, with the cycle is changing in terms of monetary policy and what the Fed is doing, with all of the ETFs, institutional adoption, is that it? Is it game over? Or are we going to get into crazy territory where people will be using our risk models, our members will be using our risk models for Bitcoin, Ethereum, because we're falling to like bear market levels in terms of risk? The risk is it's been falling, but if the risk starts falling to those areas, we're going to have people accumulating because we are so early in the space. That's just my thought. Let's go to another extreme scenario. Sub 1,500, a 10% chance. Again, if we get this break below kind of midterm support. 1,500, sub 1,500, it's a full cycle reset. And this would be really the scenario, I guess, where, People that were just like, saying that the bear market is starting and it really just trickles down. Maybe we get bounced up, but really it just like keeps going, right? And it's failing. It's like a year from now, and we're putting in lows in this area. I put that at a 10% chance if we fail at the short to midterm support. And that's like a full cycle reset if this entire liquidity cycle fails on the macro, right? And so that's what I'm watching right now. It's a huge piece of what I'm watching alongside everything else, obviously. So this is that scenario. This is like not only just a bear market scenario that a lot of people are saying is going to happen, but it's also a scenario where maybe not even a bear market, but we're getting a continued shakeout. You can see that scenario is in here as well. And I think it's a very good idea to put yourself in this scenario, even a bear market scenario. And I probably don't say that enough because I like to create content on my outlook, which is very bullish. But please know, I'm always using extreme contrast analysis. Like when I'm buying, when I'm trying to accumulate dips, I am always like, not, hey, this can happen, but hey, we could go to zero. So that's something I want to talk about. That's something I want to say to you. Let's go look at Cardano. So Cardano, it's just a very similar type of move for Cardano right now. And again, this is in a scenario where we don't get any type of support in the short to midterm. So here's what we're looking at. 3 areas for Cardano as well. 35 to 45 cents. Already we're at 50 some cents. We just dipped into the 40s already. And it's tough, right? I get it for ADA holders, for altcoin holders. But here we are again. Liquidity contraction to expansion. Don't forget it. If this support fails, and I'm talking about really the support that we've really been putting in all for months. This wick all the way back here in February 2025 is crazy. But if it all just fails, similar to Ethereum, and we need to have another shakeout, right, to a higher low range, similar to what we just looked at for Ethereum. Well, we have on this chart a 35 to 45 cent area, right? Boom. And it's still a higher low. Keep that in mind. Swing low, higher low, higher low. So if the short to midterm support fails, we're looking at, I would say, I'm just saying 60% probable. It just sounds good. It seems like it's very much in play where this could happen. And it doesn't necessarily mean we're not going to get an epic turn in liquidity cycle and an epic bull run for cryptos, but it's something that is in play. The next level, 35, and I completely messed that up. It needs to say 25. I'll just change it right here. Nope, can't change it. You get the point. I'm not going to waste my time doing that. 25 to 35 cents. No, I have to change it. 25 to 35 cents drawdown for Cardano. This is, again, similar to what we looked at on Ethereum. If we get this structural bottom, and we'd have to analyze what it looks like on the macro in terms of like this bottom back here, but 25 to 35 cents, man, that's testing all this area right here, right? That previous swing low that we had all the way in last summer in 2024. If the liquidity cycle is delayed, again, even more than it's been. And then we have sub 25 cent full cycle reset only if macro liquidity fails. 10% probable. So again, these scenarios are not, hey, I think, it's one of these is definitely going to happen. This is if we fail, kind of putting in some type of bottom, some type of structured move, right? That's kind of what I'm looking at for Cardano. And as I'm talking about all this, I'm just naturally thinking, you know what, like, yeah, it could all go to zero. Yeah, these scenarios can happen. But there's a really big redistribution going on right now. There's so much capital waiting to get into the crypto space. We have this brand new sector that is about to be deregulated, and there's going to be the Clarity Act, and there's so much going on, and the valuation of the entire crypto space is incredibly small. I don't even think we talk about that enough. Like when we're thinking about something like the total market cap, excluding Bitcoin and stablecoins, it's $1 trillion. It's just $1 trillion. So could you imagine if Ethereum is falling all the way down to these levels and Cardano's falling all the way down to these levels, so that you basically have the altcoin market cap just falling by 50% here, right? From $1 trillion to 500 billion. With everything going on, do you know how much capital and more redistribution will be happening here? Point being, kind of how I started at the beginning, I'd rather be wrong and round trip into that bear market if that was going to happen and accumulate more in those areas than to not have proper exposure for a continued bull market. That's just where I am. And I'm going to be monitoring our risk models along the way. This is a huge reason we have this system. This is something I'm using. And obviously our members are using it too. But this is a huge part of my kind of planning around these cycles. I really did think that I'd be doing exit planner stuff sooner, or I should say before potential accumulation planner stuff. But here I am, I'm doing a video on the potential of it. It just is what it is, everybody. Nobody knows what's going to happen. But that's why I have this system. It's data-based, and you can really start planning your exits within the system. Start planning alerts for accumulation or exits. Set up SMS, get texts, alerts when levels are hit, and make moves, everybody. So I thought this would be a little bit of a different video, right? Just putting this out there. Everybody's talking about it. This is not something I'm going to keep doing videos on, but I thought it would be valuable to at least do this exercise, because really in the back of my mind, I'm always doing this exercise. It could all go to zero. I realize that. But you all know my thoughts in terms of where I think we are in this cycle, and we'll just continue just tracking everything as things progress. So appreciate you watching, everybody. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, hit that like. And if you're not in our intelligence system, get back there, hit the free trial, and let us know what you think. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.